Don't you hate it when you start out with technical difficulties? Welcome, folks, to another episode of Quiet Please, the golf podcast. I'm Alan DePew. Our panel, we're a little small tonight, but we're going out. We have a threesome here with Mr. Brendan Elliott, noted golf instructor to the future generations of the game, as well as columnist now.
Nice.
We're going to let him elaborate a little more on that here in a minute. And as always, Mr. Andy Hydor, we missed you last week.
Yes, and let's say that while we are small in numbers, we are not small in stature.
We are.
Our two smallest members are not here tonight.
This is true. That's because Bobby's doing Bobby things, doing out in the bourbon countryside, and Christian. You know what? He keeps saying he's doing assignments. He keeps saying that he's working so hard. He's traveling 4 weeks on the road. Do you want to read the quote? Guys, sorry, can't get on. I'm a little toasted. Drinking pina coladas poolside in Vegas. And I actually cleaned that up, Andy.
You did clean it up.
Good for Christian, though.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? That's what our little cadet small Gen Zer does.
Exactly.
So BE, haven't seen you.
Yep.
Got everybody settled in school. You're now a soccer dad.
Part-time soccer dad. I'll leave the soccer mom to my wife, but I had to take him tonight. And man, soccer is. I've always known how big it is for kids. I even played when I was a kid. But this massive complex has like 20 fields and there's kids everywhere. It's insane. But definitely not my sport.
Yeah, outside of men's field hockey, it's the only sport that I didn't play growing up.
Men's field hockey.
I personally love the little swarm when the little ankle biters and they just swarm and they just follow the ball like a beehive. It's just
Yep.
Yeah, but it's so much better on skates. Come on.
Absolutely.
So much better on skates.
Yeah, and then because on skates, one of them falls and takes all the other ones down. It's
the best.
Hilarious. Did been there, coach that. Okay.
Might hockey,
the ankle biters. Hey, Andy, you're working a little. You got a few things in the works coming up, don't you?
In terms of,
well, you were on the road for inking hopefully some things that may come to fruition, and
we
good stuff. Tell the folks.
Q Mixers just signed a deal with Churchill Downs, so
nice.
We have a partnership with the Downs as well as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we're working on some deals with some stadiums out there. So and that falls right into my responsibility. So it's been a little bit of travel and a lot of fun.
Wow.
I, on the other hand, I traveled. I think I told you I was on the road. We're going to talk about that a little bit because I told the Southern Pines I was going to give them a shout out because they deserve it. And also today, I want to rehash something just to share with you guys. Gave a little interview today with in regards to the USGA and the 7-iron distance beta testing. They've grown that to approximately 40 clubs, and they're getting back to everybody, checking in, seeing what kind of feedback we have, how we can improve it. And I got to tell you, it's really interesting. And I'm going to actually start there. So the question that was posed to me was, do I find that most people are embracing it? And my challenge, as I said to them, were, as you know, high volume golf course is the typical golfer coming out, they just step up and they don't really think about what tee they need to play for. They're showing up for their experience. And, I don't know if it's an educational thing, but then the regulars who play that golf course all the time, or our leagues, they're like, man, I can really embrace this. Because I can't get it home on 20 or on 24 because we're 27-hole golfers. Or on number 3, I can't do this. But if I played for that tee, I could. Would you agree with that? I mean, the regular guy that goes out there to the clubs that you know, I mean, they're probably not, because the question was asked. I turned it around about the rules of golf. I think the average person doesn't play by the rules most of the time.
No.
Does the
No.
average person play the right tee? That's my first question to you.
Can we roll this back to the golf pros like it should?
Well, you know what? I hate to say it, but I threw the bros right under the bus.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it, and I've seen it way too many times where, a 4 or 5 some of guys who, are strong as can be and don't really have any idea, how to play golf, but they can hit a lot of good shots and they hit it far and they like going back to the back tees and playing with their friends. And by the time they reach 14 and 15, they're hammered. And, the last 3 or 4 holes take like 30 minutes each because of all the bets going on. And
were you on my golf trip, down on my golf trip?
I was not, but I was there in spirit. I can tell you that much.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I see it every single weekend. You're right. And and to the point, when I put out social media posts regarding this program, and it is a good program, it is urging people to play the appropriate tee for their enjoyment and speed of play and better playing, so better scores. It's all the courses are rated, and yet the bro comes in and he goes, dude, we're gonna hit it off the back tees, bro. One step
But
off the back.
it's not going to stop the bros. You know why? Because they all overestimate how far they hit their 7-iron, and a lot of them do hit it a mile.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know where it's going, so they're going to still end up back there and maybe even be justified for playing back there. So to me, it's not just about distance. It should be about your handicap and skill level too.
Brendan, I remember something Bobby or one of you, either you or Bobby said one time where, I hit. As a matter of fact, I even stole it. I think in my interview today, I hit a 7-iron at 170 yards, and I don't count for the fact that it was downwind and downhill and what have you. I mean, you teach the game at a very high level. Do you see that all the time?
That's one of the biggest problems why people can't score well is because they'll hit that one time 7-iron, 175 yards or whatever the case might be. And then in their mind, that's what they're always going to do. When Scott was on a couple weeks ago, Scott Fawcett, I'm gonna buy 5 subscriptions for a decade to use with some of my students. Just the one thing about understanding, it's not just the specific yardage you're hitting to onto the green, it's what you can hit comfortably to the distance that you need to carry it. And this thing about muscling a club or overestimating what you hit the ball is probably one of the biggest problems for amateurs on why they don't hit greens often or why they leave themselves in, up and down situations where they're not getting up and down and it's difficult to get up and down. So playing the tees, like you're saying, Alan, that people should play. It's a game. It's supposed to be enjoyable. I just, for the life of me, cannot understand why people want to not make it what it's supposed to be.
And why they just want to beat themselves up. I don't get it. I really don't. And like I said, I did not intend to go down this road, but it honestly, we're at 2 roads. It's like Robert Frost, the diversion to Yellow Wood here, Andy. I can segue towards somebody who's really golfing his ball and hitting a long ways, or I could segue to my trip. I'm going to leave that decision up to you. Which one do you want to go with?
Well, let's go to your trip.
Okay, so on said trip, lots of bros. We rolled into Pinehurst, folks. Okay, so here's the deal. I played Pinehurst itself. The resort is amazing, right? We all know that. There are so many other great golf courses down there that you can get on, play, stay at, that have an exceptional and notably Pine Needles just held the Women's Open, right? and their cluster of courses is Pine Needles, Mid Pines, which I had the pleasure of playing last year, coming back from Florida from the show. Excuse me, 2 years ago. And then this year, we went down to actually play Tobacco Road. I met the boys. We teed it up this past weekend. But I said, I want to play Southern Pines. Donald Ross, restoration, what they did with the little grow room, it's perfect. It's all you need. That's the golf operator speaking to me. So cool. I mean, just so cool. Everything about it was just a fun day. And again, Southern Pines, shout out to you guys. Your staff was amazing. I sat there. I was there for like an hour and a half before my tee time, just talking golf with the people on the count. They're building a big putting course, and it screamed of Ross. So if you are in the Southern Pines area, you got to put that on a list of golf courses to play outside of the Pinehurst Resort. And then
I have a good buddy, a little shout out to Mark Duncan, who listens to the show. He lived out there, and he raves about Tobacco Road and Mid Pines and Pine Needles and those places. He raves about it. He says it's so great, and I know from other people's opinions too that it is a fantastic place to go play places other than just Pinehurst.
Is Tobacco Road supposed to be really difficult? Very hard setup.
Now we come to number 2. So shout out to Southern Pines and shout out to Tobacco Road, because they treated us phenomenal as well. Great experience. I played the road before. I played it 15 years ago when I could actually hit the golf ball. So it was actually pleasurable to watch Andrew, who can still hit it, or can hit it, I should say. We show up there, and I looked at him as we're getting out of the truck, and I'm like, you have no idea what you're in for. Mike Strands mentally mind F's you beyond belief. God rest his soul. I mean, this thing just is, if you want shock and awe, it's shock and awe from the 50-foot sand dunes on either side of the fairway on the first hole that you got to hit through, and literally they have a spotter out there that raises his arms like, good, field goal, good. To the 5th hole, which little dinky 320, right? And by the way, at this point, AD is even par. Just throwing that out there.
Nice.
And pretty easy even par. That's what I think was the genius of Strand is Tobacco Road's actually, in my opinion, the first time I played it I shot 75, again, many years ago. I was getting it around even with diminished golfing skills as I'm getting older this time. But every golf shot, everything about it is risk reward. So you walk up on 5, 320, you could bat it out to the right, chip a nice little wedge on, or you got this 270-yard carry over just this wasteland of hell with pine trees and mounds and slopes, and well, I was even par up until that point.
Well, he designs his courses, he did, differently than everybody else. He used to do it on a sketch pad.
Right.
And he was more of an artist than he was an architect. It was pretty...
Kelly Blake Moran up here in the PA did a lot of hand sketching work also.
Really?
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating.
I mean, if you gotta honestly, Brendan, I don't know if you have you ever played, it's just it's worth the trip just to sit there and go, wow. You just shake your head. I mean, the 9th hole, and the reason I'm only telling you about the front 9 is we got to the 10th tee, literally hit our tee shots and the siren went off because there was lightning in the area, and 25 minutes later we were rained out. So we'll be back. We'll be back to the road.
What tees did you play?
Recommended place to go, though, isn't it?
Well, so let me answer Mr. Elliott. Yeah. What tee did we play? So the Ripper tee, a field instrument, not Jack the Ripper, is 6,500, like 75 slope, 1,450 course rating. And I literally looked at the guys and I'm like, Andrew, if you want to go back there, God bless. That's where I played it the first time. I'm like, I'm quite fine up here on the 6,300, 73 course rating, 140.
Yeah,
That's still hard.
Oh, it's brutal. Brutal.
Well, how many sets of tees do they have there?
5 sets of tees.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Big, massive greens, cool little food and beverage both operations, cool little food and beverage operations. I'm just saying this not to shun Pinehurst. Pinehurst is doing well because literally the entire place was sold out this past weekend. But again, there are so many good other courses in the Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, Sanford area. Branch out, folks. Branch out and check some of these properties out.
The sand.
Exactly. Who is not finding the sand, who is golfing his ball. Now I'm going to bring it back here. Let's talk Viktor Hovland, Andy.
Wow.
Again, look, like you can chronicle our podcast as we go through the year. And again, it's another example of the most just hottest on fire golfer on the planet. It was Scotty for a while. It was Lucas a couple weeks ago. Now it's Viktor. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I want to see one of these guys sustain this, though.
It made me think about the brilliance of Tiger when he was on, and now what the depth is right now. It's like, it's hard to explain what I was thinking as I'm watching this, but I went back to what you said, Andy, of all the times within the last year we've talked about this guy's hot, this guy's hot, this guy's hot. But back in the early 2000s, there was one guy that was hot.
It's amazing to think about that. Amazing.
That no one rose to the pinnacle enough to really, VJ pushed him at one point, Phil pushed him a couple of points, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to turn it up another notch.
And it's what you said, Alan, the sustainability. Like, if these guys are no pushovers, they're just as good when they're playing like that. They're just as good as he was.
Right.
But he would just do it over and over and over again. We'll never see that again. But in the same breath,
we will see
great. We'll see great golf week in and week out. It just might not be the same person for long stretches.
What I found interesting also is everybody, and ironically, I'm sitting there waiting out the rain before we finally decided to bail, and I'm listening to a couple of guys chatting, and they're just like, that Scotty Scheffler, he's got the yips. He's got the yips.
He does.
I think it's in his head. He's got the yips. Lots of bros at Tobacco Road.
Tobacco Broad.
Bro.
He does have the yips. I've been saying that for weeks.
Yeah.
Look, again, bringing back Tiger, there hasn't been anybody since Tiger that's had anywhere near the ball striking statistics that Scotty Scheffler has. And he straight up has the yips. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
And we'll obviously give Viktor his due, but how about also Xander? Horses for courses.
Horses. He's the horse for that place. Yeah.
Yep.
Insane. I literally, again, what was the lead? 6, 7 shots or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we come in at 9, and I look at the screen. I said, did he literally cut this thing to 3 shots? I didn't even think anybody was going to press Viktor.
So at the end of the week, those two shot the same score for 72 holes.
Did they really?
Yep. Viktor just had a 7-shot.
He had the aggregate or whatever.
Yep.
What did he start at for the week?
Viktor was 7, I think.
He was 7. Okay. Yeah, I still don't know if I like that whole way that they do that in the finals, the championship. It's just odd.
I've thought a lot about that, Brendan, and it is odd. What was even more odd was the way they did it before, where there was the tournament and then the overall winner.
Right.
Or maybe that was less odd. I don't know.
No,
But
I thought that was silly.
yeah, but it's like, and I saw an interview with John Rahm. He doesn't love it,
Mm-mm.
and it just is. It's easy to criticize, but hard to come up with something that's better, you know? And it's tough. Somebody was saying, have them play the first like 3 rounds of medal play with the built-in,
Mhm.
leads, and then have the final 4 play, match play to see
Mm.
who's the champion, or I don't know.
I mean, that's interesting. It's an
Yeah.
interesting scenario without question. Um, I've wondered, Brendan, can you increase the amount of the lead to reward the more season long play? They obviously more heavily weight the playoffs and the FedEx playoffs too. But what about the season long play? Give it to that guy that and who I'm thinking of Cantley last year.
Hmm.
Finau even last year they were there, but then they really jumped up when they got to because they won at Owings Mill and what have you. I mean, do you reward earlier in the season?
Well, I see. I don't know what the right answer is. All I said was it's odd. I don't know. I agree with Andy. I don't know what the right answer is. Um, but I do like the idea of a playoff system. That I like. And I guess you're right, Andy, that maybe this is the best way to go about it. But to your point, Alan, you guys know that I'm a fan of Sam Ryder, and he played well all season. He didn't have any wins. He had a lot of top tens, and he was 60. I think he was 62nd, so he didn't make it to that the tournament before the last one. But he had a good year. Now, if you bump up some of his high finishes that he had because they were higher echelon tournaments, would that have put him and rewarded him a little bit more for where he has the good play? I don't know. I mean, that's your point, right? That's what you're getting at.
I just think I know they do more heavily weight certain events than
Right.
obvious other events, but the Valero may not get the weighting that, let's say, the Bay Hill does. I
Right.
mean, I get that, but no, what I'm saying is just it shouldn't be more. I think the emphasis should be more on the season long title, and you should reward that guy that's out there grinding, trying to earn more points. I don't know. I actually, and that's first I've heard of the match play format. I like the idea of stretching. That's an interesting concept where you stretch out the seeding at first, and then that way it does give those top 4 a better chance of making it, and you could have that Cinderella story coming out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what another cool concept would be, and I don't know if anybody's thought of this, but making it team play with silly names of the teams and a points race for the teams and then an individual, that would be something, wouldn't it?
Huh? That'd be interesting.
That's a half-ass segue.
Andy, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, my thought was, as he was saying whatever he was saying, I was frozen,
Oh,
so I didn't hear anything.
so I'll replay. Let's rewind, Alan.
Yeah,
I said I have a great concept for the tour. And I don't know if anybody's thought of this. You still with us, Andy?
I'm with you.
They should have team play, like 6 or 7 guys on a team, and make up funny names for the teams and have them wear silly uniforms. I think that's what people are looking for in golf. Do you agree?
No, I do not agree.
Segue.
But I think that's a wonderful discussion point.
Man, if we just had one other person here, we could be the four aces.
Yeah. Why don't we move on into a live update? How's that?
Nice.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay.
Assist.
Are we ready for that?
Are we?
So I read a really interesting article today. If you want to look it up, it was posted on Facebook by Golf WRX. And they're reporting that there's a general structure to what's going to happen to professional golf in 2025. And hear me out as we kind of talk about this. So there is going to be an elevated tour, whatever the name is, who knows? It could be called the PGA Tour, who knows? But anyway, this elevated tour is going to have 18 events. Players from the PGA Tour, from the DP World Tour, and from Live can all play if they qualify in these 18 elevated events, all with purses over 20 million bucks. And then there's going to be obviously the four majors. So that's 22 weeks of golf for the best players in the world, which I'm guessing is going to be about what they're going to play. So what does that mean for the rest of professional golf? In my mind, I'm starting to envision this as this tour, which would be kind of like a Champions League, if you will, right? In the sense that here it is, it's all the players from all the tours that qualify are able to play in these events. And then really the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the Live Tour are all feeders of players into this elevated league. So in my mind, does that make for a better golf? Absolutely, because it's got all the best players in the world. It's got a smaller kind of set of competitions being played. It'll be attended by all the best players, and golf will be better for it. I really, after reading this article, I really thought long and hard about what this would mean, and to me it seems like a really positive outcome of this whole debacle that's been brewing for the last 2 years.
As long as there's inroads for those middle of the road guys where they could work their way into that, then that sounds fine to me.
There clearly would be, right? I think it might be harder because maybe world ranking points are going to be
More difficult. Yeah.
more difficult because the tournaments that they're playing in won't be as highly rated.
Yeah, because their performance at the majors would probably also have to elevate the level of the majors.
Yep.
That would give at least some type of fairness to, John Doe at number 75 that's probably not in the field. Get in the break in. I'm assuming, let's say a top 50, or whatever the magic number is.
Yeah, but I think to your point earlier, Alan, about the Valero,
well, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say that actually, Brendan, I called this. I want to turn back the clock a while and say, when all the dust settles, we're going to have a World APT tennis tour of a golf version. And I could see that. You go play in Australia, and you go play in the Far East and Asia, and then you come play the big courses, and you go play a couple in Europe. I could see it happen. Absolutely.
Okay, here's the other thing that was in the article, that of the 18 events, 12 of them would be in the US.
Yep.
So, like, wouldn't it be awesome if it were like the Arnold Palmer Invitational and Memorial and the, LA Open and the BMW and
the historic venues, Mr.
of the DP World Tour, right? I think that would be awesome for golf.
Yeah. The Scottish Open would obviously be one. Pick another one over there. Pick
The BMW, the BMW
yeah.
PGA. Yeah.
Okay, yep.
The one
Or
they play at
Zozo or
right?
something.
It just to me would be awesome.
Where'd they
Like
play? Where'd they play the Ryder Cup in Australia? Or not? I mean, the President's Cup a few years back.
Oh, that was a great
well,
course.
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be one. I mean, you could. They already have. They already have a couple of events over in Asia and Japan and what have you. I mean, it could work, and it's probably going to work. It does make a lot of sense. But I agree with Brendan. I agree with you. You got to have some type of way that you have to have an aspiration, so that the JTs who are not playing so well may get bumped every once in a while for somebody that's not.
Well, then something else that we don't think about, but we have talked about in the past on the show, is the impact on the local community for some of these events. It brings in millions and millions of economic dollars, but also charitable dollars too. So
That's not going to change though. Like
okay,
the Valero will still be the Valero, and the Greater Milwaukee Open and the John Deere, and like those tournaments are all still going to be PGA Tour events. They're just not going to be elevated. It's kind of a formalization of what they've begun doing already.
but I like the fact that they require X amount of those lower tier tournaments for guys to go to those. Or maybe that could be one of the recommendations to, if they're going to still do this social media / whatever the chase was for the bonus pool, to have them play in some of these other ones, because that's what drives ticket sales. That was my point on these lesser tournaments. If these guys are only choosing to play 18 to 22 events a year, they're not going to go, if this is the setup, they're not going to go to these lower tier events. And then who's going to go as a fan to watch an event like that when there's nobody in the top 20 in the world playing it?
I just think that those communities support the event anyway. And in reality, the fields in those communities in those tournaments probably won't change as to what they are today, because they don't have those players in that field.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, between the three of us, we could craft up a schedule pretty easily on some great venues.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, throwing it out there, if any of the organizations want to retain us on a consulting basis, nominal fee.
And there was some cool new venues on that schedule for the new season coming up. There was where's the Myrtle Beach one? I can't remember what the course was that they were playing that one, but that was a new event. There was a couple other new events, I believe.
On the PGA Tour schedule?
Yeah.
Wasn't it the TPC at Myrtle?
Could have been, yeah.
Now you're gonna make me want to look.
But again, if you start thinking about 18 tournaments and venues, 12 of them in the US and 6 of them worldwide.
That I love, yeah. The international.
I just think you're going to get the events and venues will be awesome for those tournaments. And you'll still get the quality golf and the quality places for those other events.
Oh, the Dunes. Shoot, should have known that. Dunes Golf and Beach Club.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually one I played.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a tough friggin' golf course.
I don't know. I think it bodes well for an ending point to this, kind of shit show that it's been here the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully everybody gets out of the way and they do the right thing and people make the right calls. Questionable if the right calls were made this week, Mr. Elliott.
Yeah, I mean, we had
Let's say you as the only remaining PGA member that's on the panel this evening.
I stayed out of the little text back and forth, and I let the kid and
Oh,
Andy.
he was heated. He was fiery.
Look, I do not. I would never want to be a Zach Johnson or a Tom Watson or a Fred Couples or any of these guys that have to make those tough choices. You could go all day long. This guy deserves it. That guy doesn't. When the rubber meets the road at the Ryder Cup, for the most part, these guys are going to step up. JT hasn't been playing well. That's the one that we keep hearing. He didn't deserve it. And maybe that's true, but I just have a feeling that because it's the Ryder Cup and he's probably going to be paired with Jordan, and no, he's not going to play in every match. But this is a setting that's so different that he will probably play well. That's kind of what I'm predicting for that. But the others that got picked, I'm ecstatic for Ricky Fowler. I hurt for Keegan Bradley because he really wanted that. But here's the thing, like he's gonna have this. Bobby shared the conversation text that he had with Keegan's dad. He's gonna have a fire lit under his ass to just go off this next season,
Yeah.
and that's a byproduct of not making a Ryder Cup. You know,
Yeah. And look, I think that all the criticism about this is a boys' club. Well, guess what? When we looked at the Ryder Cup as not a boys' club, we're getting our asses kicked all the time.
right?
So camaraderie, relationships.
Those are Andy. You made those points multiple times in our chat that's what everybody pointed to for why Europe. They were all in the pubs drinking together, having a good time. I just want to point out since the Masters, miscut T25, T14, T65, miscut, T9, miscut, T60, miscut, T12. Justin Thomas's statistics. I love JT. I root
Did
for
you
JT.
say
But I don't pick JT by any means. I'm sure glad he was about to make a point and crush me, but he froze right there, Brendan. I think it's hilarious. I didn't pause him either. I had nothing to do with that.
no? I was saying, did you say T12? Because you're telling me there's a chance.
You said there was a ninth place in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was.
There you go.
Yeah.
No, but his last one was T12.
Yeah.
And look,
I swear, Brendan, I did not freeze him.
You keep pausing him.
Andy's having serious technical difficulties. So I'm just going to keep rolling with this. Justin Thomas did not deserve to make it, and I don't believe that Sam Burns deserved to make the team. I think I could certainly make the argument and agreement for why Lucas Glover did not make the team, although he's been one of the hottest players over the last couple of months. One of the things I read was, oh, well, he had to show him something at the Tour Championship, and they didn't produce, or Keegan didn't produce at the Tour Championship, and I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I don't. Keegan's produced this year.
Yeah. I mean, he would be. All my point was, I'm not defending the pick or saying anything bad about it. It is what it is. The picks are the picks. We can Monday morning quarterback about it all we want. But I think at the end of the day, the U.S. has a strong team. The U.S. is going to be, in a good position to retain the cup. So that's all I'm saying.
Andy,
yeah,
while you're back for a moment, would you like to chime in? Should Bryson DeChambeau made the team?
that's a softball question to me. Because he shot one good round of golf. I mean, come on.
Hey, a lot of people are out there chirping about it.
I think I totally understand. Like,
And he played well in a couple of the majors. He was there.
I totally understand the Keegan thing. And even the Glover thing. But when you start talking about Bryson, and talking about DJ. I mean, give me a break. Those guys should not even have got an ounce of consideration for being on this team. Not an ounce.
So DJ at 5-0 last time around plays well in the majors again this year. Phil, for that matter, plays well in the majors this year. None of those guys other than Brooks, who, by the way, I 110%. I put Brooks Koepka on a top 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that pick for sure.
Because you know he's going to show up because he just wants to win.
You can't play the live card on Brooks, but you sure as shit can play the live card on Bryson, on DJ. You can play the live card on those guys. You can't play it on Brooks.
Agreed. Who would you have taken? Who would you have taken?
You know, I don't know that I would have. I definitely wouldn't have taken Glover. He was ranked 16th on the Ryder Cup standings. I think the one person to me that had a gripe was Keegan.
Maybe Cam Young.
That was the hardest one.
Cameron Young, I think maybe could have been a good pick too.
Cam Young had a gripe too because he finished 9th.
Yeah.
And he's quiet and he doesn't say anything, but there's a gripe there too.
So I was thinking all kinds of angles. As you know, I said Glover, Fowler, and Keegan. I thought Keegan catapulted himself above Morikawa, even though Morikawa threw up a 61 in Atlanta. I picked all of those because they were so close to the top 12, and they're demonstrating putting phenomenal this year. I want putters. I want guys that can putt.
Good point, for sure.
And
there's I was just going to say there's two schools to that, right? You definitely want guys that can putt, but you also want guys who are ball strikers for the foursomes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you need guys who are good ball strikers in foursomes.
Agreed, absolutely. And in that regard, Morikawa has definitely demonstrated that his ball striking is coming back around a little bit. He's hit his little baby fade a little bit more so than that draw that came out of nowhere. I think Keegan got shafted. I really do.
So last week, not that last week means everything, but Sam Burns was -9 for the 4 rounds last week. Colin Morikawa was -10. Keegan was -7. Glover was -2. And Jordan was +1.
So, I do think that Glover has ran out of gas at the FedEx Championship. He'd just been on 7 weeks, or I think it was 7 weeks in a row. He was out on the road. I just think he ran out of steam, plain and simple. And yeah, and then as far as then, I even considered the JT factor. You know, I do get why was Ian Poulter selected to the European team for so many years, because he was the rah guy and he's a beast in match play. I thought through that component. Then I thought through the most strange one of them all. Is it because his dad's a PGA member? Well, you dispel that, because guess what? Keegan's dad's a PGA member, as is Cam Young's.
No chance is that.
No.
Come on, guys. That's that can play a factor.
How? You think Zach Johnson gives a shit about who's a PGA member or not?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because those two other guys you said, if they had gotten the pick or the roles reversed, you can make that claim too, but I just don't think it's a factor.
Could be.
I think the Euros, despite me before we started recording, I don't know half the guys, not half, a handful. I just think the Euros are good. This is going to be a good Ryder Cup because you got Rory and Rahm and and Hovland. These guys are playing some really good golf, so it's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
a good Ryder Cup.
Yeah, you really only had you had Rom and you had McElroy, and then after that you were like, okay, who you got? Well, now Hovland. Now
Yeah,
they're three deep of guys that are playing really well.
Yeah.
that's
But
right.
again, you know, we've seen this before. A lot can change in a month with people's golf games.
It's true.
Both good and bad. A lot can change. And
Who
especially like what are these guys going to be doing between now and then?
hitting a lot of
Prac-
golf?
Practicing. Well,
That's
I just
really
pulled up
good.
the Europeans, and you said those three, but then you throw Terrell Hatton in there and Tommy Fleetwood. Those guys have had pretty good seasons too.
Hell yeah, they have. They were both in Atlanta.
Yeah, Shane Lowry,
The only one
Terrell
really,
Terrell Hatton. I wonder if he'll like the course.
except Straka, he's on the outside, but he's had a good year. Fitzpatrick. I mean, they could really stack this team.
I was watching a little bit of the European event at the Cronsis, yeah. And Fitzpatrick's striping it again.
I'm telling you right now, the matchup I have to see on Sunday singles, is Brian Harmon against Adrian Maroke.
He's gonna post him up.
It's like WWE, like Rey Mysterio versus the Big Show.
And if anybody, so hey, maybe for the people that aren't familiar with the big Polish man from Poland, he's like 6'7", right, Andy?
He is. He's no Ivan Putski, but
And Brian Harmon's maybe 5'8" if you get. I mean, maybe if you give him.
yep. Yep.
It is going to be a good Ryder Cup. I'll be honest with you. Andy always talks about the venue. I'm not very familiar. I haven't done a lot of research yet at this point on the venue. You guys know anything about it? I mean,
Marco Di Simone.
is
No, I don't know anything about it.
No, I don't either.
okay. So next time around, we either that or I guess we got to go there.
We must.
Oh, Heather will be so upset about going to Italy.
Oh,
Uh,
let's tee it
anyway,
up, baby.
what do you got there? What is that?
Well, since we are lacking a
Oh,
guest this
the
week,
hell you say?
we are going to.
Oh,
And
he's
that's why,
frozen. You got your
I
owl.
froze, and that's why I froze his ass, Brendan. He's not doing anything. He's not asking me a single question.
And I've been away, so I don't know the questions.
The god the gods are not with me tonight, the internet gods.
You should text me the questions in case you freeze.
Yeah. Well, Ellen, are you ready?
Bring it on.
I'm coming at you hard.
Oh God,
What's your lowest score for 18 holes?
63 actually.
He froze.
He froze. I didn't bullshit that. I mean, I
63. When was this?
I was 22 at Lockledge Golf Club in right outside of New York City. I was running it for Billy Casper Golf, and the truth of the story is I went out for a playing lesson, and the girl was really good looking. I started playing, and I made the turn
You
in like
tried to up your game a little.
made the turn with like in 28.
Wow.
And I shot and with a one of the par fives, like number 6 was a par 5. I remember I made par on that one, and we got like 5-6 holes in, and I said, I'll be honest with you. I said I'd be happy to give you another playing lesson. And I said I'm playing really good. Let's just keep going.
That's awesome. So, what are the 3 favorite courses you've played?
3 favorite courses I've played would be wow. Is it going to be? Does it have to be the ones that everybody's going to say, like the Pinehurst of the world and the Pine Valleys of the world?
It can
I
be
would
whatever
certainly,
you want.
I would certainly rank both of those up there. Obviously, they should be. I'm going to give you a couple other ones. I'm going to give you an honorable mention also. So, Alvermar Golf Course on at the University of Kansas is insanely challenging, especially when the Kansas winds start blowing. And then the other one is actually Nags Head Golf Links, which is the hardest 6,000-yard golf course I've ever played in my life. And beautiful, by the way.
Okay, that's two.
Well, I threw one of those. That was like a 3/honorable mention, and Pinehurst and Pine Valley were 1 and 2.
Okay, got it. Okay. What are the 3 courses you'd love to play that you haven't played?
The Old Course, Augusta, and Old Head.
Nice.
2 of those you can get on without too much trouble.
Well, airplanes.
Yeah, you got to get there. Name the 3 best players of all time.
Like we asked last week, we'll say it again. Jack, Tiger, and without question, let's just go here.
Yep.
Mr. Hogan's adorning my walls.
Well done. Well played.
There's a reason he is named Andrew Hogan DePew, my oldest boy.
What is the best part of your game? We all can answer this one for you.
It's certainly not putting.
Ladies and gentlemen, take my word for it. It's putting. What is the worst part of your game?
Shoulder turn anymore. No, truthfully, I was never good. I was never a phenomenal ball striker. Obviously, I had to find other things, but yeah, I used to be able to hit it a long ways, and I used to be able to putt. They just were a little erratic.
Okay. So what skill is most important to playing great golf?
Flexibility.
Interesting. Are you a PGA?
And I should also, can I also say just staying in the moment?
Yep, you can say that.
Okay.
You a PGA Tour or a live guy?
PGA Tour.
Yeah. And who is your favorite golfer? Last hole, the favorite golfer, past or present? Alan's favorite golfer.
My dad.
Awesome. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Well done. Well played. You survived the Quiet Please hot seat.
Wow. Look at the sweat just down the brow.
Bro. 18th hole, Brendan. Get me off the hot seat.
Well, I just wanted to share, you had mentioned it at the start, golf columnist. This is something that you guys know that I've been working on for quite a while. It's just something I was horrible in English when I was a kid, and writing was not something that I liked, but all of a sudden, I do need to make a shout out to my younger brother, Graham, who went to school for journalism at St. Bonaventure, and then he worked for Golf Week for, I believe, 6 years before he became an elementary school teacher. And he's where I kind of got into this idea of, writing and sharing your experiences through writing is a pretty cool thing. So I'm with Sportskeeda, and I was looking at some information about them. They're based out of India. They have 100 million viewers monthly for all the sports that they cover, and golf's kind of on the weaker side. So they're just trying to grow that. And so this is my first non-teaching type course review type thing, where I'm actually going to get to do some interviews and talk to players and talk about events. So I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Much deserving, and I love the fact you're chasing that passion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Hydorn.
So I had a friend, the previously mentioned Mark Duncan, who was the guy who lived in the North Carolina Sand Belt. Well, he referred to me this documentary on Netflix about Newcastle, the football club in the Premier League. It was on Prime Video, not Netflix, but it's an interesting documentary, but it's full of Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the PIF. So my point here is that it's amazing how much the PIF fund is looking to get into everything sports wise. So they own Newcastle, big part of Newcastle, totally turned it around, the football club. I read something this morning that the PIF is involved in a mixed martial arts league. Obviously the stuff that we've all been talking about with Liv,
Formula One.
It's pretty amazing. And if we sit back and we look at the PIF as, this golf centric thing, it is not even near just about golf. There are so many other things that they're doing, and they clearly are looking to have, an interest in what's going on in the world of sports. So I think if we just look beyond our own sphere of the game of golf, we can have a little better perspective on really what's going on in the grand scheme of things.
I will close with, you gotta love Kevin Kisner. Google his comments about what a waste of time criticizing the PGA Tour Live fight. It's funny. That's all I got to say. Boys, until next time, hit it long and straight.
Because it's better than hitting it short and crooked.